You think your job is hard? You think your back hurts? Give me one day on this construction site and you'll be begging for the cubicle you complained about this morning. Because building the Great Pyramid wasn't a job. It was a sentence your body served. So let's serve it. Open your eyes. It's still dark. The sun isn't up yet, but you are, because the stone doesn't wait for sunrise, and neither do you. You're lying on a reed mat in a mud brick barracks packed with other men who smell exactly like you do, which is to say, like sweat, dust, and the river. Somebody is already coughing. You sit up and every muscle you used yesterday files a formal complaint. Your hands are the worst part. Open them slowly. The blisters from last week have become calluses, and the calluses have cracked, and the cracks have filled with sand. This is just your hands. We haven't even left the building yet. Here's the first thing you need to unlearn. You probably pictured a guy with a whip, rows of starving slaves dragging stone while an overseer cracks leather across their backs like in the movies. Forget it. That's Hollywood, not history. The people who built the Great Pyramid weren't foreign slaves in chains. They were Egyptians, paid, fed, housed, and organized into work crews with names like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkaure. Some were skilled craftsmen who worked year-round. Most were ordinary farmers doing labor service for the state during the months the Nile flooded their fields. So good news. You're not technically a slave. Bad news. Your body cannot tell the difference. Because being a paid laborer on the largest construction project in human history still means 12-hour days of moving rock by hand under a sun that wants you dead. The paycheck doesn't unbreak your spine. So let's stop arguing about the word and go to work. Breakfast first. You'll need it. You shuffle to get your ration, and it's bread and beer. Not beer like you're thinking. Thick, sour, barely alcoholic sludge that's somewhere between a drink and a soup, brewed because the river water down here will give you parasites that live in your gut for the rest of your short life. The bread is worse. It's stone ground, which sounds rustic and charming until you understand what stone ground actually means. Tiny fragments of grit from the grinding stones end up baked into every loaf. You eat sand with every bite. Day after day, year after year, that sand grinds your teeth down to the nerve. Archaeologists who study the skeletons of these workers find the same thing over and over. Teeth worn flat, abscesses, jaws that must have throbbed every single day of a person's life. Yours included. Chew carefully. Now, the walk to the site. And there it is. You've seen pictures. Pictures are a lie. Nothing prepares you for standing at the base of something this big with the knowledge that you are going to help make it bigger. The Great Pyramid is built from roughly 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite. The average block weighs about 2.5 tons. That's 2 cars. Some of the granite slabs hauled up from hundreds of miles away weigh as much as 80. There are no cranes. There are no machines. There are no engines of any kind anywhere on Earth. There is rope, there is wood, there is water, and there is you. So you grab the rope. Your crew of dozens lines up along thick hauling ropes lashed to a wooden sledge. And on that sledge sits a block that outweighs everyone pulling it combined. Someone ahead of you pours water onto the sand in front of the sledge. And this is not a ritual. It's physics. Wet sand is firmer than dry sand. It cuts the drag almost in half. The Egyptians figured this out 4,500 years before anyone wrote down the word friction. Smart doesn't make it lighter. On the count, everyone leans, the rope bites into your raw hands, and the block grudgingly moves the length of a footstep. Then it stops. Then you do it again. There's a man up front setting the rhythm with his voice. A low chant that everyone pulls to because dozens of people yanking at random would tear the crew apart, but dozens pulling on the same beat can move almost anything. So you fall into it. The chant, the lean, the bite of the rope, the footstep. It stops being words after a while and becomes the only thing holding your body together. Now do that 10,000 more times. Now do it tomorrow. About an hour in, your body starts negotiating with you. The sun is fully up now, and the desert does a cruel trick. The stone radiates heat back up at you while the sun bears down from above. So you're cooking from 2 directions at once. There's no shade. Shade is for the finished tomb. Sweat pours off you faster than you can replace it, which is why water carriers move constantly through the crews, because a worker who collapses from heat is a worker who isn't pulling, and a stopped sledge is a problem for everyone behind it. You drink, you pull, you drink, you pull. Your world narrows to the rope, the count, and the next footstep. And the dust is in everything. Thousands of feet, thousands of sledges, millions of tons of limestone being cut and dragged and chipped into shape all day. every day. The air above the site is never fully clear. It hangs there, fine and pale, and you breathe it in with every gasping pull until it coats your throat and dries your eyes and settles into your lungs the same way it settles onto every surface for miles. You taste stone. You smell stone. You are slowly becoming part of the thing you're building, one breath at a time. And then somewhere across the site, the negotiation ends for somebody else. A snapped rope, a slipped block, a foot in the wrong place. Injuries here aren't paperwork. They're the difference between walking and not. But here's something that'll surprise you. They actually fixed you. We've found the skeletons of these workers, and they tell an incredible story. Broken arms that were set and healed cleanly. Even amputations that the person survived and lived years beyond. There were doctors on site. There was care. The state that worked you this hard also kept you alive, because a trained worker who knew how to move stone was valuable, and a dead one was just a hole in the crew. So when you shatter your forearm under a sledge, someone splints it, sets it, and you heal. Then you go back to the rope. Comforting? A little. The bar for good employer was extremely low in 2500 BC, and there's a strange thing that keeps you pulling even when your body wants to quit. Pride. Remember those crew names? Friends of Khufu. Drunkards of Menkar. Those weren't jokes, those were teams. And teams compete. Your crew wants to move more stone than the crew working the next ramp over, and the overseers know it, so they let the rivalry burn. You're exhausted, you're cooking, your hands are bleeding, and some part of you still wants to beat the other guys. 4,500 years before Stadium Chance, you're finding out that humans will endure almost anything if you turn it into a game with a side to root for. Your back is destroying itself for a scoreboard nobody will ever read. The day grinds on like the sand grinds your teeth. And here's the part that breaks people's brains when they really sit with it. You will do this for years, and you will never see it finished. The Great Pyramid took around 20 years to build. 20 years of crews like yours, season after season, block after block. A man could spend his entire working life on this single structure and die before the capstone went on. You are one footstep in a march that started before you arrived and will continue after you're gone. Your name won't be on it. The pharaohs will. Speaking of whom, you will probably never see Khufu. Not once. The god king you are killing yourself for is an abstraction, a name, a reason. You're not building a tomb because you believe a man becomes a god when he dies, although officially you do. You're building it because the harvest is in, the Nile has flooded your farm, the state has called, and the bread and beer are real, and your family eats because you pull. That's it. That's the whole reason. Stripped of the mystique, the greatest monument in the ancient world is held up by the most ordinary thing imaginable. People who needed to feed their kids. The sun finally starts to drop. Your crew sets down the last block of the day, and the relief is so total it almost knocks you over. You walk back to the barracks on legs that don't feel like yours. You eat more bread, more sand, more sour beer. You lie down on the reed mat with your cracked hands throbbing in the dark. Somebody is coughing. Somebody is always coughing, and tomorrow the stone still won't wait for sunrise. So here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. We look at the pyramids and we see the pharaoh. We see the genius, the mystery, the impossible math. And all of that is real. But the pyramid isn't actually a monument to a king. It's a monument to the worker whose name nobody wrote down. The one with the worn flat teeth and the healed overarm, who pulled a rope until the sun went down for 20 years and then vanished into the sand without a single record that he ever existed. 45 centuries later, you can still see exactly how hard he worked. It's the tallest thing he left behind. It's the tallest thing anyone left behind for almost 4,000 years. So the next time your back aches in a chair or your feet hurt after a long shift, sit with this for 1 second. You come from people who moved mountains by hand and got nothing but bread, beer, and a body that remembered every block. Every comfort you've got was built on a spine that bent so yours wouldn't have to. So yeah, say thank you to the guy with the rope. Subscribe for more history they skipped in school. See you in the next video.